What's poppin', people? It's Dante, currently standing on top of the cliff here, looking out towards the Schuylkill River here in Philadelphia. Beautiful day. Check it out. We got the Philadelphia Museum of Art peering behind that beautiful tree. Nice pavilion, beautiful lookout spot. You know, I love starting my day off here with an elevated view. Yeah, it's a great place to be, to look beyond the horizon and to recognize the infinite possibilities of everyday life. You know, there's something about the mundane, there's something about repetition, there's something about this state of production in the realm of photography that I believe is key, right? There's something in this flow state, this state of becoming, this stream of becoming, if you will, you know, where when I look out at the water flowing and changing, I'm reminded that you cannot make the same photograph twice. You know, you cannot step in the same river twice. You cannot look at life the same way every single day. You will always find something new to uplift in a photograph through your view, your vision, the way that you perceive the world, you know, the way that the light changes and etches and gives shape and form to things. You know, there's something about light itself and the way that it casts upon surfaces like this. And so when I return to this location, I'm reminding myself that. I'm reminding myself that I can photograph this same thing every single day for the rest of my life, but it will never be the same. And I think that this is just an amazing, abundant mindset to have in the world of photography, where it's easy to get bogged down by your location. For instance, you know, when I consider photography and my journey, you know, I'm born and raised here in Philadelphia. I first picked up the camera when I was around 16, 17 years old. I remember exploring with the camera very early on, and you know, I basically got into street photography without really recognizing what it is, because I live in a city, right? And so you know, now I'm 28 years old. I spent about 7 years straight just traveling and photographing, pretty much non-stop. Like, I would always be on the road, traveling, photographing, you know, trying to make that next best picture, right? Genuinely, I was just immersed in making strong work. And I believe that this is a good thing. I believe it's a good thing to improve and to become a better photographer. But morning. You know, what I recognize now, after all this time spent, is that your next photograph is your best photograph, you know, despite the notions of what makes something good or bad. And I really do think that this is critical and will help you, you know, hopefully one other person, to just stay in the flow state. Like, that's where we want to be, where you're not getting caught up in what's good or bad. So I'll tell you a quick story, right? So I transitioned from shooting in color to black and white because while I was in Hanoi, Vietnam, man, these smell so good when you, it's like, can I just use this as my natural deodorant? Yeah, so when I was in Hanoi, Vietnam, November 2022, I was photographing there for 1 month. And I recognized I'm repeating myself, you know, like I'm seeing the same thing over and over again, despite the location, despite where I am. You know, I've seen the same thing happen over and over again, no matter where I am in the world, right? Whether I'm in Mumbai, Hanoi, Mexico, India, wherever you are, right? And you'll see the same thing and you'll photograph the same thing in the same way. And you kind of get tired of it after a while. You're like, wait a minute, I kind of hit a wall maybe, you know? Maybe I have to bust through it and go beyond this wall, this glass ceiling, you know, and just shatter it. And you know, that's what I did. I decided when I returned home, I was like, let me just get rid of these cameras. I feel like what happened was I was getting burnt out from the camera gear. I think camera gear, as much as I'd think it doesn't matter, it does matter in a way that has to do with the way it operates, right? So like if you have a camera on your neck and you're saying, oh, I'm a photographer, let me put on my photographer hat today, and you're going out there to make work, it can become tiresome at times, you know, where I found myself constricted to the way I was photographing with the Fujifilm cameras, where I had to put the camera to the eye. You know, I remember at some time towards the end of this journey, I was photographing with the screen for the entire time. You know, I was just trying to like throw it around and like try something new. I was like, can I just do some like trick shot and like just you know, like put the camera in this weird way that'll like give me a different result? Because what I realized is the approach, the way that you operate, despite the location, you will still see the same way. And so what I recognized was I need to break free from these you know, parameters, these guidelines, these rules that I've set for myself. And so in order for me to do that, I returned home and I returned to the Ricoh. I just traded in all the camera gear. I just got rid of it so that I could go back to just using this simple setup that I first fell in love with digital photography with the Ricoh GR2. And so by doing this, I'm now alleviated of the burden of carrying a camera. I can merely throw it in my pocket, you know. I don't have to really be that photographer. And so when I consider the reason why I picked up a Ricoh in the first place back in 2015-16 was because I was photographing in Baltimore, in a city where I was not necessarily wanting to be perceived as this photographer. I knew that I was going to be working here for a long period of time. I didn't want a camera dangling on my neck in these environments. And so because of that, I decided to go with Ricoh. That was the main reason. It was the stealth factor. And so working in Philadelphia in the same location time and time again, let's say I work here for 30 years. Let's say I photograph here for a long time, 50 years. You know, I don't want to be the photographer. You know, like I want to be the fly on the wall. And so that's a critical factor to consider when it comes to choosing a camera. And for me though, the mode of operation is even more critical, where I can now throw the camera around in nuanced ways and play the game my own way, where I'm breaking free from all the rules and all the basic ways of working that I believe I traditionally abided by. And I think that's good to do for a while, but then you realize, okay, I guess I made my best work. Let's just make something radically different, radically new. And hopefully that will help me make better work. And, you know, I don't think that there's one way to play the game. I think you have to make your own way. And that's just my story. That's my quick analysis of why I decided to change up my process, now going back to black and white. You know, it really had to do with the way that I'm operating and the repetition. You know, I kept seeing the same thing, I kept photographing the same thing. But now, with my nuanced and newfound process of photographing light and shadow and returning to the basics and fundamentals of painting with light, I believe that I can transcend any ordinary and mundane scene that's in front of me and find something new to uplift. And for me, this gives endless possibility, truly. And I think that's what I've been looking for. I think that's what I've been craving. And now going forward, you know, especially now that I've decided to delete Instagram and sharing work, you know, and recognizing this passage of time that you must embark on, you know, where it takes a lot of time to make a strong photograph. It takes a lot of time to make anything interesting. You know, when I look back at my photographs, you know, there's stretches of time between a month, 2 months, 3 months, couple weeks, a week, where you don't make anything interesting. If I look at my contact sheets, I look at the dates in which I photographed these scenes. Yeah, look, you don't get something every time you go out, you know, and that's something that I think we got to realize here. And so by disconnecting and not sharing, it's good. You know, where you really do need to spend time and recognize that it takes a lot of time to make anything. And so, yeah, that was step one, deleting that. And then, you know, time is just this interesting thing. I think time tells all, right? Like, you look at a photograph, you don't know how many years somebody's been photographing to get to that point to make that photograph, right? It really does take a lot of damn time. And I think it's just important to remind myself this fact, because, you know, it's almost similar to just like working out. It's almost similar to the gym and improving by that 1% each day. It's like my idea with photography is, in terms of like flow state in the state of production, is you just want to get, you know, just a little bit more curious each day. You know, you want to get 1% more curious, I'd say. Yeah, I'd say that's the goal, actually. Because the photographs, I believe that a photograph, it's merely a byproduct of how close to life you become. You know, did you throw yourself on the front lines of life? It's just a byproduct of you being there. sir. Did you ever see Tarzan before? Okay. Oh, this is another good exercise. Could use this and throw this around. I think working outside is just so nice, right? Doing things outdoors. You know, maybe my vocation in life is to be outside. You know, as much as it's photography, I think that the curiosity that you possess, right? That's where this that's where the magic happens. That's where the real work is done. But you know, you really have to consider these things, right? Curiosity, courage. You know, there's these notions of skill within photography. Oh, you're a skilled, you know, or a talented photographer. I don't really believe in this, because I think that anyone can learn the chops. Anyone can learn photography. You know, you just pick up a camera and go. But not everybody possesses courage. You know, not everyone is curious. And I believe that's what determines a good photographer. From my notion, what I believe in is a strong photographer, a strong artist, you know, somebody that makes strong work, right? You know, maybe instead of bad or good, let's just consider strong or weak. Is it weak? Is it strong? I like that more. And you know, when I look at a photograph, I want to know how curious that person is, you know? I think that's more interesting to ask, you know, how curious were you in life? How courageous were you when you pressed the shutter? You know, this to me is what ultimately determines the result of the photograph. It's your physical body moving through the world and positioning yourself in a way that requires courage, right? On the front lines of life itself. And that was a weak throw. Weird stick. So that's a weak throw. I gotta bring out a strong throw and have the stick hit the other side of the riverbank there. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think curiosity, courage, and time. You know, I think we have to break free from the location that we are currently living in. You know, wherever you are now, you can make interesting work. I think you just have to break free from any traditional notions of what makes something good or bad. And maybe it's good to learn what's good, and it's good to learn the rules and the guidelines that have been set out from before, you know, considering the tradition and the history of street photography. But actually, in order to go beyond the horizon, in order to break free and to smash the glass ceiling, yeah, maybe you have to find your own game to play, where it doesn't matter how mundane life is or it may seem, you'll always find something. And I think that's the name of the game. It's in the mundane, and it's finding ways to create something from nothing. Yeah, and then maybe in 50 years we'll have something cool.